morning again. That's helpful. Tell my host to grab this thing back. Good morning. That's much better. That's much better. I hope you guys are having a great Sunday so far. We're really glad that you've decided to join us this morning. And let me just say another word of encouragement about, you guessed it, C3 groups. If you have not gotten plugged into a C3 small group, I just want to emphasize again, you are missing out on what God has for your life. God has wired us, designed us in a way to grow in the context of community. God has made us to work together, and that's what we've been talking about and discovering for the last several weeks as we've been going through the series, 40 Days of Community, exploring why is it that God has put us together? Why is it that we are all part of a community of Christians here? Why are we in the neighborhood that we're in? Why has God placed us at the job we're at? What is the purpose of the community that God's placed us in? And how can we take that and leverage that and maximize that to see God's purpose, God's plan fulfilled in our lives and the lives of the people we love and care about? And so this morning, that's how I rumble up here. Maybe take out the monitor's mic. But this morning, that sounded like I really meant it. This morning we're going to be talking. This morning we're going to be talking about living a generous life. It's the sixth part of our series, 40 Days of Community. And when we get to discuss what it means to live a generous life, and what does that look like through God's lens, I'm gonna be really honest with you guys this morning. As I began to prepare for this message this morning, God really challenged me in a lot of ways, and God really kind of asked me some questions that made me uncomfortable. And usually when God makes me uncomfortable, I'm getting into what He wants me to look at. I'm discovering a principle or an idea or a question that God has been wanting me to ask. And I really wrestled a long time preparing this sermon. But before we can really get into talking about generosity, I want to maybe address just a tension that you might be feeling right now, because it's the same tension that I felt when I began to look into God's Word and to see what God had to say about living a generous life. Whenever a preacher begins to talk about generosity, usually a couple of thoughts start to come to your mind. One, when is the second offering coming that he's going to talk about? And two, I'm bracing myself for the guilt that I'm going to feel for not being a more generous person. Let me just put you at ease right off the bat. We already took the offering this morning. We're not going to take another one. And I'm not going to try to make you feel guilty this morning. Guilt is an ineffective thing for changing the way we act or the way we behave, isn't it? I mean, how many of you guys feel guilty? Now, you don't need to raise your hands, but how many of you feel guilty about your eating habits or about your exercise habits? I know I do, and I felt that way for years, and I haven't changed a thing. I really need to. But to be quite honest, I haven't done anything in that area. And guilt is not an extremely motivating thing. So we're not going to be talking about that today. I'm not going to be twisting your arm and telling you how bad of a person you are because you're not more generous. We're going to look at different reasons, some of the tension that causes, or some of the tension that's created in our hearts when we begin to talk about generosity, especially when it comes to this area of personal finance. And one of the interesting things to me about Jesus and what He talked about Jesus spent more time talking about the issue of personal finance than any other thing. And so, to me, that speaks that if we're going to be fully devoted followers of Christ, if we're going to be true to what we say that we are about, then we're going to have to make sure that we are addressing these in our lives. And so, as I prepared for this message, God put this question in my head, and it really challenged me, and it completely changed the way that I have been looking at my own personal finances, my own personal resources when it comes to being generous. And this is a question that I would venture to say most of you in this room have probably not asked yourselves. It's probably a question that if you're later in life, you may have asked yourself this some, but chances are you haven't asked this. And this is the question: why do you have so much? Or why do I have so much? Why am I so wealthy? Why do I have extra? Why do I have more than what I need? Now, I know what you're probably thinking right now, because it's exactly what I was thinking when God popped this question on my thought, and then I'm saying, I don't have more than what I need. What are you talking about, God? I am not wealthy. I do not have extra. As a matter of fact, when it comes to finances, I feel all this tension and pressure. I mean, we've got the whole economic crisis thing going on, and the one area that I probably do not feel at ease about is an area of personal finance. And God, you're telling me that ask myself, why do I have more than what I need? And so we're gonna look at that a little bit this morning. And one of the things that we have to understand, first of all, about our finances and our wealth is this: we live in the richest country in the world. I don't think anyone would argue me on that. But I came across this website that's called globalrichlist.com. And you go on the site and put in what your annual income is, and it tells you exactly where you're at on the scale of world income. And so, let me tell you, I make under $40,000 a year. That's our whole household. And that makes me in the top 4% of the richest people in the world. Top 4%! Now, before I began preparing for this message, I just did not have that. I would not have had that perspective. I would not have thought, man, I am among the most wealthy people in the world, because my comparison was not to everyone in the world, but it was only to people who had even more than I do. And so most of us feel this tension when it comes to finances, because when I saw that, I asked myself, if I am in the top 4% of the richest people in the world, how is it that I feel so much tension and so much pressure when it comes to my personal finances? And as I begin to think about that and pray about that, most of us feel this tension and pressure because of a couple of things. We've got our income, and whether you know it, I don't know anything about your personal finances. But I do know a couple things that I can tell you without even knowing anything about you. This is, first thing. One, you live on a percentage of your income. Now, you may not know what that percentage is, but all of us live on a percentage of our income. Some of us live on 90% of our income. We made the decision that 10% is going away. That's how I was raised. Many of you were raised the same way. And we live off 90. Some of you live off 100%. Every dollar that comes in goes out. You're not really sure where it goes, but you spend every dollar that comes in. And even though over the years, most of us, if we look back, we would say that we